Hello, and a warm welcome to this first ever episode of my podcast, Songs Nobody Asked Me For. My name's Nigel, and I am the singer and songwriter of the Plymouth, UK based indie funk band, The Curve. And this podcast evolved from a period of gloom I had as a writer of original material who I would say hadn't really succeeded in, obviously, what all of us who write songs probably at some level aspire to is to be successful, to have a large following, to have success out there in some way. And I don't feel bad about this. I think it's probably more of a normal experience than actually succeeding. But when I've been looking around, there are lots of very successful people that run podcasts on, this is how to do it, this is how to succeed. Here's some great tips from the business and the industry, and some of those are really interesting. On Facebook, Instagram, all of the social media sites, you get people forever. If you're a musician, you'll know this. On your feed comes up these things about, do you want 6 million followers on Spotify? Why are you wasting your time doing this? Why are you doing... And all of them, and when you click on them, maybe you get somebody talking to you for 10 minutes, really sort of telling you, this is going to be the answer to all your dreams. And then, of course, what they want is you to pay them to sort of give you some snappy answers, which are generally about how you make yourself more commercial, which is an important thing, but it's not the key to everything, I don't think. I started thinking about this when we played a gig down in Cornwall, and certainly in the Southwest, this will come out in other podcasts that I do. We live in an area and maybe a time when covers bands and tribute acts are what a lot of people want to go and see. Maybe they always have, I don't know, but there's always felt like more of a space for original music than perhaps there is now. I don't know. Maybe that's true in the country, the world, I don't know. But it's tough sometimes just doing your own music, and I became interested in this because we had a gig where I could see, we played on a it was myself and the bass player from the band, and we played on a list of people who mostly were doing covers, maybe one or two original songs within their covers. I won't play covers, so we just did our own material and we introduced it all. And I hadn't had this experience since I was younger and playing in bands in London where you finish your song and there's a couple of, it was probably about 10 seconds, 5 seconds of a pause when you realise nobody's listening. And then you get this polite clapping and then you carried on. I hadn't had that experience for a while, and it got me really down. And it got me really, why am I doing this? Why am I subjugating myself into sort of trying to do original music when nobody's that interested? And I got down about it for a while. And then I started thinking, well, there must be lots of people like this, lots of people who have tried and failed. There are lots of people who wrote songs for a while and then give it up or do covers because they know it's the only way they can get their own material heard. And I thought, well, maybe it'd be interesting to do a podcast, which I think is mainly going to be about my history, my failures, I would call them. I would call them happy failures now because I don't want to be too gloomy about it, but, how I've not promoted myself very well, how I've not taken opportunities when they've come, and also a bit about how I've become a songwriter rather than just maybe a guitarist or a musician or a singer, why that part of me has stayed, because for a lot of people they give it up or it goes, but I've hung in there and I love it and it's what I love to do, even though it's utterly soul destroying at times. So I think it's going to be some about that. I'm going to tell you some stories maybe about how I became a songwriter early days, how I used to keep hold of songs, how I write lyrics, how to construct a song. And also maybe, I've managed to get a couple of interviews from people. I've interviewed 2 of my band members on the difference between playing in covers and originals music bands, why they like what we do. I'm due to meet with a guy called Pav, who you'll hear about in these podcasts, who was a really dear old friend of mine from when I was 6, and the first guy I played with, if I was pompous enough to say we were Lennon and McCartney, then he would have been my John Lennon. We used to get together in his bedroom and play music, and early days write together, and he's coming on and I'm really interested to sort of interview him about songwriting. And from this I realised that what I want to try and do here is to sort of meet up with some other people maybe around the scene here who maybe some older people like me who've evolved into finding a way to make music work, or people who used to write their own music and gave up, or young people who are in the throes of getting into that and what it's like to get into that these days. But from a perspective of what I might call real people out here who are struggling around trying to do this, the funny thing about being a musician who writes your own music is the reality is you never really at some level give up, I think, inside if you do it, that idea of succeeding in some way with it. So I'm really happy with what I do now. I enjoy it. I have a great bunch of guys I play with. But I always have that little hankering to be more successful than I actually am with it. Not in a big way these days, but just a bit more acknowledgement, maybe a bit more people being into it, following it. So maybe I'll talk about that, how that evolves. What I have found so far is, for me, about you guys, that for me this has been very cathartic. It's been a very useful process. I've just thinking about myself, thinking about why it is that I do this, because it can be relentless sometimes, and other times it's so exciting. It's great to just see people getting into something you've created. I was thinking I'm not going to say much more because this is the intro. In a week's time, the first episode's going to come out, which off the top of my head is an episode just thinking about sort of early days, really, just maybe even about the first gig I ever played. I think it might be the first gig I ever played, which was a bit weird, and I remember that, and talking about that, being in a school band, that sort of experience. But I was thinking this morning as I was going to redo this, because I did this early on and then I felt that, no, that isn't really right. Now I've done some of the podcasts, I thought, no, that's not quite what this is. And I was thinking there's probably 4 ingredients to succeeding. This is my bit of advice. Advice, I don't know. I think in this also is what have I learned about this that might be useful or completely unhelpful to people, really. 4 things that I think you need to succeed in this. And it's very similar to sport and other areas where you might succeed. And 2 of them are things I think shouldn't have to have in life, but if you don't have them, you're not going to get anywhere. And 2 that you absolutely should have to succeed in these areas, but many people manage to succeed without doing them. So the first one is hard work. Okay, now I think you shouldn't succeed in this without a bit of hard work, in an ideal world. But hard work is, you've got to look at any of these sports people that do these things. You look at someone like Andy Murray, that's been relentless hard work to get to where he is. And you might have people, and I think I can be like this, look at them, they're up there doing all this stuff. And I think, well, yeah, but I got married and had a family and had a career and did all these other things. And whilst I work really hard on my music, maybe I've never worked as hard as I could have on it. But I work hard. I do, especially these days. I've got a bit more time now. I only work part-time, and so the ability to spend more time on my music makes me realise that I get returns from that. So hard work, that's the first one. The second one is talent, and of course, these are the 2 that I think you can see people succeed who have neither of these things, or one of them, or not the other, and because of the 3rd and the 4th reasons. But talent, you have to have something. And it's really uncomfortable for me because I've been evolving in this podcast, realising, started off the first few, I'm squirming really inside because I'm so embarrassed. And I talk a little bit about why I feel like that. But I have to own that I have a little bit of talent. Now, what that talent is, I don't know, but I have a creative talent to write songs. And few people, really like them, like what we do. And I'm really proud of that. But that's a little bit of talent. So, number 1, you've got to work hard. Number 2, you have to have talent. Number 3 is luck. Luck is just such a big thing, And so many people who've succeeded, you see them interviewed, and they'll often, a lot of them are pretty open about that and acknowledge the luck they had. This little thing that happened just at the right time in the right place. And when they were ready for it and they took it, or they played a gig and somebody happened to be there at that time, and the right person. And I think without luck, you get nowhere. So you can have lots of talent and lots of work really hard, but if you don't get the luck, you can not succeed, And the last one is opportunity, I think. The opportunity to perform, the opportunity to be putting stuff out there, to do things that you want to do. And again, you get an opportunity. You get, maybe I know someone, who's running a festival and they're a friend. That's an opportunity when they say, oh, come and play for us. The luck then becomes that somebody is in the audience who might be influential or useful, or something happens. There's the right vibe or move at that time that happens, so that my hard work and talent can succeed because of those things. One of my sons is a great sportsman, and he's really good at sport. But I remember him not succeeding. He's very talented, and he works really hard. But when he was younger, had an opportunity to go do fairly well in that, but got sent back down from a centre of excellence. Even though they were telling us as parents and to him that he'd progressed more than anybody in this assessment period, maybe 10 weeks assessment, had moved further than anybody had done in that time. They'd come across it a long time. But they were sending him down, and I couldn't really work this out at all. And I argued the toss and saying, look, well, do you want to see what he's going to do in the next 10 weeks? All of this sort of stuff. Didn't get anywhere. What it transpired in the end is that the other lad of his age who was doing the same thing there, because he was in a particular position, his dad was a coach at the place where my son was trying to move forward. So you kind of think that's my son having talent, working hard, having an opportunity, but not having good luck. Because the luck in that becomes, if that lad hadn't been there, or hadn't been someone whose father was in a position of influence there, his luck, then maybe my son would have progressed further in that area, which is what he really wanted to do at that time. So to me, that's a really good example of not having those four things. Having one of them missing has the potential, especially those two, luck and opportunity. But there you go. Right, I'm going to finish here. I really would love you to come follow this podcast. It's a real experiment for me. I'm really nervous about it. I've never done anything like this before. I'm looking out for songwriters as I'm out playing that I think I might be asking, if I feel confident enough, whether they'd let me interview them. As I say, you're going to have anecdotes and stories from me. There's going to be different areas that I'm going to focus on. I'm going to focus on songwriting. I'm going to focus on words. I'm going to focus on why I evolved into writing songs, why I stick at doing it, thinking about gigs, thinking about publicity, all sorts of things that I feel that I've not done very well at times, but also maybe what I've learned from them. And look, I'm still here. I'm still doing this stuff and really enjoying it, even though I do get very frustrated at times. So do come and join me. I'd love you to follow my band. You can look at them on #MusicTheCurve. You've got to get these adverts in there, And songs nobody asked me for. Come and join me to find out about songs nobody asked me for. Have a good day. See you soon.
But no matter how I try, confusion crowds.